So we are here at the Goetheanum, which is a large conference and research center near Basel in Switzerland. We do lots of seminars, larger conferences, and therefore have lots of smaller buildings for different workshops. But our main focus is the large stage, where we do conferences up to 1,000 people. We needed a way to connect all of the buildings together, to get the video together, to get the sound together. Because we already had our Dante solution for our audio network, we wanted to find something that was similar, IP-based over the network, that we could quickly implement into our existing system. So right away, of course, we came upon BirdDog. First implemented one P200 camera as a test, and it was so successful. It worked very, very well for our live streams. We then got the package with 3 P200 cameras and keyboard. Got the task to build a dedicated studio where we could do all of our Zoom sessions for the board. We wanted to have a room where we could also do our live streaming with hybrid, where half people were here and a few hundred people online. And then we also wanted to be able to have the capability to be flexible, so we could use a room for multiple purposes. And therefore we have the P200 flex cameras up on scissors. So we have where we can quickly bring the cameras down or orientate them depending on if it's a lecture or if it's an interview session with 3 or 4 people. We can quickly change the room, and with the flexibility of the flexes, maybe that's why they're called the flexes, but with the flexes we're able to quickly get in our computers, whether it's a PowerPoint or if people are coming from a remote, we can quickly add them into our video network and grab their feeds and bring them into our live video mix. As with any installation, we've found ways we can improve. And one of the main ones is to get some more fixed P200 cameras on our network, which can be installed in any of our workshop rooms. And the second larger project is in our main auditorium, where we have lots of performances which are low light, we have lots of concerts which are also low light, and conferences or lectures which also are not always very well lit. And so because of the advantages of the P4K in low light situations, we're looking at implementing those in the next year or two. And who knows, the next couple of years, who knows what new possibilities or new technologies will be out there. But we've been very happy with the IP and NDI solutions, and with BirdDog, it's been a really, really good solution for us. So we're very happy.
Well, it is that time again, everybody. Hope you are doing well. My name is BirdDog John, and I am back in action.
In those scenarios, it's good to neuralize the cameras. You guys know that best.
Very straightforward. Plug it in, go to the web UI, link the source, walk away. You know, like super simple. I keep looking over at the chat, and I keep seeing you are full of it. Tasty, spicy meat snacks. Covered in flavor. I mean, you can't go wrong. So what's going on? We've got a handful of folks here in the chat, and I really appreciate that. What's up, mate? Hey, Warren, how are you? Appreciate it. Hey, Robbie, how's it going, man? You're just talking about you. What's going on, Tom? Ahoy. How is it going? What's going on, GoWeb? Good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out with us again today. Appreciate that. I feel like I'm in this video more than anyone but John. It's true, NetApp. You are, I'm going to cut this up and put this in the next intro. Well, it is that time, everybody. The time you've all been waiting for, twice a week from 11 to 12 at least, here on the BirdDog Live support channel. I am BirdDog John. Hopefully you're doing well. Like all good online hosts, I'm going to double check my audio. Sounds good on that end. I've had to spend some time this morning fixing or reverting, not fixing, but changing back my studio because we had meetings and stuff that happened last week and folks that need to use the studio to do some presentations and whatever. And so I've had to try and figure out how to put it all back. And I think I've got it back to where it's supposed to be. Actually took a PF120 over to show somebody This thing says my audio is peaking, but I don't know if that's the way that I have the Zen audio monitor routing it. So let me just maybe turn that down. If you guys are all saying it sounds good, then that's good news. Let me time out. Okay, so this maybe needs to be like this. All right, let's try that and see what happens. Okay, that seems to be, if it sounds good, that's all that really matters, I guess, right? So I'm hearing a hiss, but that is because I have my Mac plugged in to my Behringer, the Euphoria UMC 404 HD, the very same one that vMix uses for their live shows, I found out. But anyways, yeah, so if it sounds good, then that's really all that matters. I will double check now that I've adjusted things a little bit. We'll just do a double check just because you should always double check, right? Yep. All right, so that seems to be all right. Now it's just a matter of quality content that I've got to generate, which who knows if that's going to be successful or not. Hopefully you're doing well. Yesterday I stepped off a plane at 8:30 in the morning and drove to the office. I had been away for the weekend visiting some folks, and I came back yesterday. I just hit the ground running. It was a super early morning. My alarm went off at 2 a.m. to get away from where I was to get back here, basically to work. And I was an hour late, but I didn't take a lunch, so it's a potato, I think, at that point. But I was fading fast in the afternoon, and I did have to leave a few minutes early just because I was basically useless at that point. So my team took over, and as they always do, and they were able to, I think, handle things throughout the rest of the day. I didn't hear any of emergencies or anything, which is always good. That's kind of a no news, good news situation. But yeah, so it's been an interesting day. I'm back in the office at regular hours today, so that's good. And like I said, I had to spend a little time setting up the stream, making sure that it looked correct. Now, I took the pink or the purple light off of my interview spot, which we didn't ever end up using, and I put it on my sidewall beside me here. So I have a light, a low intensity green light here that's on the side of my face, which just kind of adds a tinge of color. And then I've got blue over my shoulder, which is, that's been there for an age. But I've moved that purple light over to the wall. So when you see the accent wall in a few minutes, when it actually switches, the playlist says it's going. So when it switches, then you'll be able to see that. But that's kind of my recent changes. I was also trying to see if I could use a little different microphone. So I've been looking at microphone techniques. I'm not trading the RE20 for anything, by the way. But I was trying to look and see like positioning of microphones. I've got the NTG2 is back in the studio, but I'm not using it right now. That was, again, going to be used for the interview stuff, which, again, that didn't happen. So I'm using the RE20 today, and I was trying to monkey around with my little Rode Wireless Go system that I've got. And I have an actual wired lav mic that I'm trying to use. Now, there's the 240 shot, which is back in its home base at this point. So I've got this, wired, this is that Rode unit. I guess you're up here at this point. So those little Rode wireless units. And I really like these. I use these out in Northern Ontario to record some stuff, some presentation stuff that was going on in the woods, like in the wilderness. And they worked pretty well. And so I'm a big fan of the wire. This is just the Wireless Go, the first generation of it. But the Wireless Go 2, which includes 2 transmitters, is also really cool. I just didn't have a need for it, and I didn't want to spend the extra, I think it was like $85 or something to get the other one. So if that need arises, I'll make a decision later. But so far, so good with those. Now, I brought those into the Euphoria this morning, thinking that I could do like a 1/4-inch jack into an 1/8-inch jack, and then plug the receiver into that, and then but yeah, that didn't seem to work, and I think the playlist timing is off now that you're already looking at that PF120, which is here on the side. Let me just edit that real quick. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to stop the playlist, which is fine because that's where it's at, and I'm going to just do this, done, start. Okay, so all good. So just monkeying around with potential for a little different microphone setup, and I actually wanted to see if I could use a lapel mic, not a lav, but it is a lav technically, but using it but mounting it under clothes. And I was noticing various mounts that people make, essentially two thin pieces of foam that you wedge the microphone between, and then you tape that, to shirts or like under your sweater or whatever. So I thought, oh, you know what, I could probably make something roughly that would, emulate that sort of thing. And then if it worked really well, I would just buy an official one that wouldn't be super fluffy. But this is basically just a piece of packing foam. It's like pluck and pull foam. And I just made a small, I just emulated that mount and tried to just tape it under my clothes. The issue is that I was getting plenty of signal on the Rode Wireless Go, but I was getting nothing inside vMix, which I thought was odd. So I tried several inputs to give it a go. I could hear it faintly, but there was really no way that I could tangibly like crank up the volume without screwing up the Royal setup. And this was like 30 minutes ago I was trying to do this. So I decided to pass on it, but I'm not giving up on it, because if that works really well and the audio is halfway decent, it might be a good way to record education videos without needing the RE20 in the shot. So if it works, then it works, and we'll go with that. So we'll see. That's kind of what I've been experimenting with this morning, some microphone placement, just to see, we're doing some education videos and some things. There's a little bit of a pause on it just because we're trying to iron out details as to what we want to actually do and what we really need to say. And so that is coming, but it probably still be sometime late in the first quarter of the year. What's going on, Angus? Welcome back to the show. Always nice to have you around. Someone's checking in from Finland. Good morning, mystery Facebook user, but I appreciate you checking in all the same. Always good to see you there, and I could jump over to Facebook and actually address you by name, I suppose, if I was doing my due diligence. So, yeah. Oh, it actually doesn't show. It actually doesn't show you over there for some reason this morning. I'm not too sure why. I may be logged out of Facebook. What's going on, Balu? Sounds good. That's good. It sounds good here. Excellent. Thank you. From Finland. Yes, I was hoping that was just a typo and not a country I'd never heard of before. What's going on, MX Rules? Good to have you back. Buenos dias. M-Tash, hanging around. Always a pleasure to have you here, Max. Welcome back. I'm delighted to report that the play speaks nicely with my grumpiest, cruelest old computer monitor. Well, that is cool. I'm glad to hear that. I actually have a computer monitor that is not HDMI. It's VGA and DVI. So I'd have to buy a specific cable to go from HDMI to DVI. But I'm assuming that's because it's just a little Linux SBC that will generate whatever the EDID demands rather than specifically declaring video formats like the Studio. Correct. The NTG2 is a tough mic. It needs some serious gain to be useful, so it'll expose any preamp inadequacies quickly. Oh, that's an interesting assessment. I'm a big fan of the Wireless Go 2. I bought a set, and they've been excellent. With the latest firmware, they will record on board without having to connect the receive. Really? Wow, that's cool. I didn't know they had that sort of memory. Do they have an SD card slot or something? That's a cool feature. I know that their direct competition is the DJI, right? So the DJI came out with one, basically a clip-on. You see it on a lot of folks. And there's a couple of YouTube videos. It was basically between Wireless Go and the DJI one for me, because I really didn't need the dual transmitters, but I wanted to invest my money in the way forward, and I could really use a wireless, transmitter and receiver. What I don't like about this is if you don't have a button down, and then you're basically stuck with doing something like this. Now, with these cameras, the gamma is set the way that they are. It's really not the end of the world. But yeah, I don't really care for having this huge box hanging, but the DJI is the same way. So that's kind of why I was like, if I could fit this crappy old microphone that I have that actually works pretty well, considering how much I paid for it, which was not much. If I could plug that into the transmitter and then have halfway decent audio where the microphone is hidden, that'd be all right. So anyways, more on that later as I, have all my free time to figure that out. But we shall see. Is it normal for the PTZ controller to have much more delay while using NDI control compared to the Visca over IP? No. Typically, the delay of control is network related. Visca IP is basically the NDI protocol is based on the Visca IP command set. So if it's working with the Visca IP, in theory, it should work faster with the NDI stuff. So if you're experiencing long delays, make sure, first of all, that everything's up to date to the latest. If you have mismatched firmware on cameras and keyboards and they're not running the latest on everything, that will introduce a delay in packets. If you're running a static network, it's really common for NDI packets to not make it across because they are moving at a much faster rate than the VISC IP ones are. So if it's, there's several things going on there, but the network thing is typically what the issue is with the keyboard and the commands not making it in time. We get a lot of people that report wandering. So they send a command to the keyboard to move, and then they stop the joystick and the camera just keeps moving. That's the stop command not making it to the camera. And again, that's a network issue. Where can I get a hoodie? I think the only place to get this hoodie is to know Eamon personally and to meet him at a trade show. I don't think I've seen these hoodies be given out to non-BirdDog employees in a while, but then again, I don't normally go to trade shows, so I think that's the only place that you could actually get one, unless you made one, I guess. John, can you talk about the differences of NDI network best practices, meaning what was once preferred TCP is now multi-TCP, UDP, RUDP. Multicast is not preferred, but now is? What is the best preferred now? Well, this has actually been a hot topic around the office, around the BirdDog offices at least, mostly because what we're hearing from the integration world. Sorry, hang on one second. Okay. What I'm hearing from the integration world is that if you require DHCP, we won't buy your product. And what I'm hearing from the engineers is they only test everything they do on static networks. But what I find with support and what my team finds is that long-term installations, static networks tend to have issues because the broadcast packets either stop or are not as frequent as required. And so when you search, for example, a great example is when you have a static network that's been on for several days and you turn on a keyboard and you search for NDI sources on your static network, several cameras won't come back. I have a well-documented I have that well documented in this desk in terms of that's a reoccurring issue across multiple versions of NDI. However, if people won't buy our products if DHCP is required, then obviously that is a mountain that we have to climb, and we have to sort that out. So, first and foremost, that conversation is still ongoing because we definitely want everybody to buy our products. And if a requirement is that, no, you can't require additional things on static networks, and we have to be able to set IPs on cameras, and they just have to work perfectly on static networks. And in particular, what they're normally saying, I'll say at least half the time, they're saying unmanaged static networks. Okay, don't just assume they mean static, but unmanaged. Well, then we've got some long-term testing that we're going to have to do, and we're going to have to harden that network process and guarantee that it's going to work. So when people pay, $250,000 to buy a fleet of cameras to go into their new institution, and they set it all up on static, that it delivers those results constantly. And in addition, nothing else can be required, like Discovery Server and so on and so forth. So it's a very interesting revolving concept. I thought it was pretty much well settled long ago that yes, static is fine if you want to see a camera on a network and get it up and running. But if you're really talking about long-term installation, that's not a wise option. We haven't changed the code or anything, and so there doesn't seem to be any immediate path forward when it comes to static and solid repeatable results. But it does sound like that is the direction that we need to go, and figuring out how to do that. And so I've asked the engineers to give me the white paper and the top-down hardened process, and so they've said they'll get back to me. So we'll see. Now, in regards to protocol, which is also what you're asking in this instance. The NDI protocol was based on TCP originally, and so that is kind of always the go-to. You're doing 3 cameras and a keyboard. TCP protocol it's a unicast protocol, and it's going to be the go-to, the assumption that you're going to do it. UDP was something that was added because we were seeing high usage of network bandwidth, and they wanted to lower the requirement. The problem with UDP is it's a one-way street, and so again, you start losing cameras or commands don't get there correctly or whatever. The camera will send UDP packets and just shoot them out to anybody that's subscribed, but won't actually verify that the packets have arrived correctly and intact. And so UDP was announced and then was kind of hush-hush by New Tech. Never mind, we're not going to do that anymore. It's still an option, but certainly not one that they recommend you use over other protocols. So then the concept of let's go to multi-TCP is the next one. And multi-TCP was introduced as a stopgap between UDP because of the problems we were experiencing with UDP. And I say we, I think industry-wise. And that people were switching things to UDP on unmanaged networks and were losing their cameras and whatever, and it wasn't reliable at all. So multi-TCP basically gives you the option to use a unicast profile, a TCP profile, but using multiple ports to do it, not just the single. When you set it to TCP, it's over the same port across the entire network. If it's multi-TCP, that gives you the option to use multiple ports over TCP protocol. So you do still get the checks and balance, but it's not all trying to go through the same gate. So that's good and bad because, again, it requires you to know more about your network, make sure that everything is open for flow. It's kind of assumed, I mean, if I'm reading the tea leaves, if you will, it's kind of assumed that you control your network and you know how to manage it and how to set it up. When people come to us and say, well, we're trying to do this without the IT department knowing that we're on the network, now you're swimming outside in your own lane as far as I'm concerned, because the network is the backbone to get these packets across. And so if you're trying to borrow somebody's network without them knowing, you're skirting 50% of the installation. Just anything over IP, if you're trying to do it on a borrowed system, you're going to be limited. I'll put it that way. So multi-TCP gave us the opportunity at least to use TCP protocol, which was very stable, but using it over multiple ports. So that was nice, but it didn't really catch on. Then enter the RUDP conversation, and this was most recently launched in the NDI 5. Now, if you're keeping score, it really just sounds like, now we're going to try this, and now we're going to try this, and now we're going to try this. And that's kind of what it was. But reliable UDP is doing some checks and balances at a much lower level than TCP is, but it does seem to be, just on the surface, more stable by far than UDP and less of a network requirement than TCP. And so if you need to run a unicast protocol, RUDP might be a good way if you're having intermittent issues as a stopgap solution. For example, Dan has posted on Facebook that RUDP is preferred with the BirdDog Play, which I can confirm that protocol outside of multicast is the preferred unicast protocol when dealing with Play receiving, streams for decode. So RUDP does seem to be more stable and does seem to be able to keep the sequence in order. However, I have noticed timing issues with RUDP just across NDI in general, where it doesn't seem like things are consistently being displayed correctly. And so I don't know. I haven't tested it myself, and so I can't put my name behind it, whether or not I would full on recommend you running an RUDP protocol over a TCP protocol. So if you're still thinking unicast, quite honestly, I think that TCP is still ground zero. And then you can do things to try and tweak the system, but there is no real switch over and use that protocol full time on everything. So, it's been interesting. Now, all of that to say, there's also a multicast protocol, which is the way to do NDI if you're doing multiple destinations. The way to think about it is unicast is streams per connection, okay? And multicast is streams per destination, and not even. So you would only be replicating those packets at the endpoints, and so it keeps your bandwidth requirements really low when it comes to multicast. However, the trade-off is that your system needs to be sophisticated enough to actually do multicast. And so like all of these protocols and all of these conversations, the network is really the deciding factor. Can it even do it? I haven't had great luck with multicast over Unify system unless I have multicast set up outside of it. So I let, for example, Unify output the DHCP, but I set up multicast within VLANs on the 4250s that are around the office, and those seem to be pretty consistent. But if I were to try and figure out whatever multicast is on unicast, and again, it's very poorly documented, I'm not super satisfied with how to get it up and running and make sure that that's a repeatable result. So there are other systems that it comes natural, and again, the 4250 is already ready to go with multicast, which is one of the reasons why you pay the premium price tag for a 4250 unit is because it's already done for you. And so your setup time, your takedown time, and your troubleshooting all take a substantially less time than if you're trying to cheapen out on the system. So multicast, if you're going to multiple destinations, and this includes computers, by the way, like if you're going to studio monitors that are running on a few computers around the system, Studio Monitor actually requires 2 NDI streams when it pulls up the system. So you will notice a substantial increase in network bandwidth on your computer and across your network if you're watching streams in Studio Monitor. So it's a great way to check sources, align cameras, do quick things, quick adjustments, or finding IP addresses by clicking on the little cogwheel. It has its uses for sure, but I wouldn't recommend using Studio Monitor as a way to do production. I would really recommend you getting a system in place that can allow you to not necessarily look at the full-on streams. And when you click on Studio Monitor and you connect a stream, it tends to make 2 connections, which floods your network with unnecessary data. So if you're going to multiple destinations, including computers, multicast really is kind of that answer. Now, the catch-22 on this, the second catch, I guess, because the other issue is, can your network even do multicast? The next thing is, well, anyways, can your network even do that, right? And then can you actually use the multicast workflow across your entire system? So you need to be able to set up and configure your network for multicast. Again, 4250 does this for you naturally, but then you need to go in and configure your cameras for multicast. Now, the beautiful thing about multicast NDI is if you already have a switching company that's configured it for you, then really most of the time you just need to go in and turn on multicast on the network. Now, multicast packets are, if you're doing this on a borrowed network, are generally blocked by IT departments. That's a big no-no when it comes to network data on their system, and so you're not going to be able to do multicast just out of the box. And I need to say this again, doing multicast is not logging into your camera and switching the protocol to multicast. That is not you running a multicast network. You got to set up your multicast network properly, and every switching company does it differently. So you need to know how that's done. Be sure that you can guarantee that your multicast packets can be transmitted across multiple switches and to multiple destinations, and then you turn it on the camera. The camera thing is the last piece of the multicast integration, not the first. So, me personally, I mean, at the level of cameras that we're running and decoders in this office, we do run multicast on our primary network for NDI, and it works really well. I don't see a whole lot of problems with that. And it's a great way to test the unicast and multicast protocols. Obviously, when we bring customers' cameras into our system and we're testing them and fixing them and whatever, we want to be sure that it'll do both. But yeah, with, when you're running multicast, there are other things that can go wrong, and generally changing the endpoint, the camera or the converter to multicast, is the last task. So that can be a bit of a challenge. Anyways, MTash, that's probably way more than you ever dreamed I was going to go down. But there's the networking spiel. And all to say that it is constantly happening at BirdDog, and it's probably going to evolve, because we need to figure out how to be sure that we can guarantee reliable results to our customers when it comes to recommending network setups. And if the market is really telling us DHCP is cute, but if you're going to requirement, we're not going to do it, then we need to figure out how to do it, right? That's the end of that conversation, essentially. Not that I've seen. My keyboard is quite responsive over NDI. Boom. Yeah, I haven't seen that either. So that's usually what I would, that's usually what I would indicate is it sounds like it's a networking issue. Hi again from Finland. That mystery guy. Hey, what's going on? Facebook user. Thanks for hanging out with us. Nope, just onboard memory. I just bought mine before DJI even announced their product. No regrets whatsoever. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I like the little system. It works really well. I wish I had more opportunities to use it, but I don't. Now, I have like a lot of Zoom recorders and stuff, and it worked great on those if I'm just recording locally. I also bought the clip-on handle for it. It seems corny at first, but it's ridiculously useful. Yeah, I like the little transmitter. This clip that's on this transmitter, it's hard to see that, but there's like a little clip here that you can, let me put it in front of my face. Maybe that'll be easier. So see that little clip? That clip is a hot shoe mount. And that's super convenient because I definitely put those on top of my Canon RP and use it as basically the audio input. So it's really cool. I need to check out that clip-on handle. I think they're the same size. Yours and mine are the same size, so maybe they would work. I did a show last week where I had to follow a very lively presenter for about an hour. My only frustrations were with him, not the 200s and the keyboard. Love to hear that. That's great that it worked really well for you. And it depends on your network topology is what he meant. Yep. Agreed, MX Rules. Hey, John, how is the P200 video coming along? Are you on a P200 right now? Yeah, this is a P200. It's funny that you keep asking me about that P200 video. So that I said we need to do that, and HQ said, oh, yeah, we're working on that. So I'm actually not making that video, but HQ is, that I've heard. Now, I know the guy that told me he's working on it is now in Europe for a few weeks. So I don't know how well it's coming along, to be honest with you, but it's not coming along in my office. That's not on my to-do list. Hey, thanks for the information. Yes, we have a static network and latest firmwares. Is there any solution regarding static networks to get better performance? Yes. A couple of things that are happening behind the scenes, but quite honestly, the way forward for you would be to run a discovery server. So if you run a DS on a Windows machine, you point all of your cameras and your keyboard at the discovery server. That should clean things up pretty well for you. Because what it does is it basically just stops all the broadcast packets and sends them all to a centralized location. The downfall is that you have to run a Windows computer to do it. And that computer needs to be on that same subnet that you're running. But yeah, that would be the way to do it today on a static network. If that's the requirement, then run a discovery server, and that should clean things up a fair bit for you. Otherwise, yeah, proper DHCP installation would probably be the way to go. When do you guys plan to make that P200 picture settings video? I have no idea. I was told HQ is going to handle it, so we'll let them handle it, I guess. Each protocol is for the NDI release, and you need to choose what is going to work inside your facilities. Yep. MX Rules is not wrong. So when people spend $250,000 to buy a $2,000 camera, what? So when people spend $250,000 to buy a $2,000 camera is lame. $250,000 to buy a $2,000 camera. Well, I think I understand what you're saying here. To neglect the backbone, but if I'm 100% honest, I mean, it's not really their fault. Because when NDI launched, when NewTek launched NDI, it was in contrast to 2110, which was the other leading it was the other leading video over IP protocol, honestly. And the 2110 requirements are absolutely ridiculous for what it gives you. And it's a great protocol, but, you know, NDI came out and basically said there are no requirements, and that was a massive mistake. They should have come out with a short one-page document that said, do these things. And then people wouldn't be upset post-purchase that their networks aren't up to snuff, right? So it's not really their fault. It's kind of the industry's fault, and we just need to take that, you know, that punch to the face and then correct it. This is Tim Hortons Coffee. Today's show brought to you not by Ember Mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. So I don't really blame. I mean, if I was to really place blame, it would kind of be on the fact that it still isn't publicized that this is the way it should be done. But we're getting feedback from the industry as to how they want it done. And we're going to need to probably do something about that. Either adjust the way that we write our code or adjust the expectations of the market, which is probably a lot more work than adjusting your code. So we'll see. I'm not too sure as to what's going to come of it, because I had a discussion. I had a discussion with some of our leadership last week about this conversation, and just said, if we need to change it, we need to change it, but I need to see it working before I can change what I say. So I love the DHCP network with the DHCP reservation list idea. that has a single subnet and it's VLAN off, nice, lots of power, 4250 NDI 5 profile running multicast. It's a beautiful thing. Seriously, those networks just work really well. And if you know what you're doing, you can make a beast of a network that can do a whole lot more than just NDI. So it's this like love affair that I have with NDI and networking, and that I really wish people would choose to do sophisticated things, but instead they just want to remove the sophistication and literally just use the network for the ports and the data transferability and do nothing else in terms of sophistication. And it's kind of like it's kind of a violation of networking. If I'm honest, it would be like buying a Ferrari and with no engine. That's what I feel like it is. It'd be like buying this beautiful sports car, but it has no engine inside of it, and people being like, that's what we want. What we want is to see the car, but we don't want to drive it. It's like, it's a very interesting philosophy. Interesting philosophy, because what it boils down to is those integrators are interested in the fastest way to issue an invoice, right, and make a profit. Fair enough. I mean, that's their business. But really to lose the sophistication and the beauty of what is a well organized and orchestrated network. So it's sad, but it is what it is. We are married to our DHCP reservation list, and it works great. So I'm asking about the other configurations. Yeah, me too. I would go with the network configuration, the DHCP reservation configuration all day long if you need that, because it gives you a lot of flexibility that people don't understand, again, about sophistication of networks. But those other protocols and configurations, I haven't seen a consistent way that convinces me as a network administrator that it's a great idea. I can't tell you not to do static networks, but I can give you some pointers as to, like, you probably should consider at least one, more than likely redundant discovery servers that are running at all times 24/7, just to make sure that things are operating with some level of brains behind the operation, because static, unmanaged just means you're removing all the intelligence. I forgot to mention, I did my last show with both cameras on RUDP. I was still seeing frame drops on one of my cameras, but I believe it was the cable with a 100-foot Cat 6 not shielded. Oh, that's interesting. I would love to know more about it, as you discover that, what the deal is. Whereas my other camera was on a shorter shielded Cat 6 cable. Interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's absolutely what's going on, but that definitely could be the issue for sure. Trying to secretly use NDI on a network without involving IT is trying to drive an 18-wheeler on the freeway where they built all the overpasses for Mini Coopers. Yeah, you'll eventually squeeze it under, but you won't come out undamaged, that's for sure. What if I put a smaller router to spread IPs over my Unify 8 and stream over Wi-Fi for my PC? Please don't. So the nature of Wi-Fi as of right now is that it allows broadcasts to go out but not come back. And this means that packets go into the abyss and never return. And it's only up to the receiver side, so that the endpoints that are connected to the wireless, to transmit back. But it also means that there's a lot of extra requests going out that are never being answered, and that causes your network to bog down. Also, Wi-Fi doesn't operate at a super high consistent rate, and so if you're running full NDI, that's going to be a problem, because you're going to eventually get drop frames because it operates at 150 megs a second and not at, Wi-Fi is really good at doing low amounts. For example, an HD stream on Netflix is about 6 megs, and a 4K stream on Netflix is somewhere in the ballpark. I think of it's like 8 or 12 megs. And so wireless systems can handle that sort of demand on those connections. But when we start talking about, you're going to open Studio Monitor on a laptop that's connected to Wi-Fi and it's asking to look at 150 megs, that is probably not going to be smooth for very long. It might be initially, but I think you're going to have problems. So we normally say eliminate Wi-Fi networks. However, with Silicon 2 and the announcement of HX2 and 3, This might give you the flexibility to use a BirdDog camera on a Wi-Fi system if you can turn down the bandwidth enough to give you consistency. And you will compromise and add latency because that's the nature of HX. But if you just absolutely need a crowd shot that doesn't need to be up on IMAG or doesn't need to have perfect timing, then, you might get away with that. That'd be all right. But I usually shy away from Wi-Fi, and, Wi-Fi networks are considered a different style of network. Okay. So there's wired networks, and then there are wireless networks in the certification realm. So you go to school to specialize in that sort of networking infrastructure and understanding how it works best. And we're already, the industry is already struggling to try and understand just the simple wired network and why things are important and why we do things the way we do them. So adding Wi-Fi is like another, it's not even a third dimension. It's like a third and a fourth and a fifth dimension, because not only do you have point-to-point stuff, but then you have actual Wi-Fi 802.11 whatever protocols, right? So A, B, G, N, AC, AX, now new Wi-Fi 6 and yada, yada, yada. So there are lots of protocols. And if if you don't know what you're doing, I don't know if you're going to have repeatable results in a logical sense. Now, I've seen some networks that are unbelievably rock solid in terms of Wi-Fi, where the Wi-Fi space is so jam-packed full of transmissions that it's really rock solid everywhere you go. But again, if you start streaming live video over that across the network, it's going to be a performance-based thing, and I highly suspect that people are going to see performance-based stuff and say, I keep getting drop frames on my Wi-Fi when I'm using your P200 with Silicon 2 HX, and I don't know what I could possibly tell them. Is like, well, let me research your specific Wi-Fi installation. Like, is that what the solution is? So I'm a bit nervous about what the future holds. Because it seems very fraught with unsupportable situations, and clients are just going to be super frustrated. So we'll see, I guess. What's going on, Bug Zeke? Welcome back. Morning. Thanks for responding to the Facebook post the other day about my P100. I have Christian helping me out at 9:30. Boom. Christian's a good dude. Both of them. I got two Christians in this office. They're two guys named Christians. I've got more than two actual Christians in this office, but I've got two guys named Christian in this office. They're both great. So whichever one you get, you're lucky. I could give you senseless. Just kidding, buddy. I love you. I'm saying that it's integrators' fault for charging so much, but cheapening out on the lousy unmanaged network. Preach it, NetHab. I love that. It would be really nice if Netgear would simplify DHCP reservations on the 4050 line. I've been told they are, that they're bringing that to the web UI interface. I don't know of a timeline, but I've been told that has been put on the list of things to do, because it's really annoying to have to go in on the other side and add them. And then if you make a change on the network, they all disappear. So yeah, they're trying to fix that. I run very large networks without DHCP reservations. I don't think that it really matters either way. Like many network things, it depends on the reliability of the network. As a general statement, yes. A lot of people just want to know what, like if they have a keyboard, for example, it marries to the IP address, and so they don't really want that to change. So the natural inclination is, well, I'll just log into the camera and set an IP address. The issue there is that really it stops broadcasting after a while, and then you get issues bringing NDI across. And so adding them to the DHCP reservation list guarantees that they stay in DHCP mode, that they continue to broadcast on a regular basis, and that they're connected and they're constantly sending video to whoever's subscribed. So it's a nice little added bonus. It's not a requirement. DHCP reservations, absolutely not. And if you don't have many devices coming and going off of the network, again, not a requirement. The sophisticated DHCP server will likely reserve that IP address for that MAC address until it's required to give it to somebody else, because there's a lot of changeover. And so again, this is an issue with Wi-Fi networks, is that typically there's a lot of people coming and going and requesting IP information from the DHCP, and then you get new IP addresses, issued all the time. So that will be a hill that we're going to have to climb when we start rolling out HX into all of our HX2 and 3 into all of our products. I'll keep digging on the frame drop issue. Yeah, let me know. And Facebook user likes NetHab's jab. Can you tell me more regarding new functionality of the already available 4K HDMI and SDI encoders to work in dual encode mode? What was said to be available soon? Yeah, so that was put on the laundry list of things that they have hoped to get integrated. It is not available yet, and there is not a launch date for that function. So for those of you who are just catching up to this conversation, the dual encode, meaning that you can take in two sources and encode them at the same time, that is currently not a thing that they can do, and it's not listed as an option on the tech specs for those two products, but it was something that somebody had posted, I think, online on Facebook or something from internally from the company that said that's what we're trying to work on next. Quite frankly, there's a lot of things that we're trying to work on next. And yeah, this year is going to be a lot of fun, but that dual encode function is currently not available, and I do not have a launch date for it. So I wouldn't be speccing out any sort of installations with that functionality. We get this all the time where features get announced and people start speccing out stuff based on those, those functionality announcements or wish lists or whatever it is. And then, it takes a lot longer to figure that out than we originally thought. So be careful. Do not spec out projects with that functionality on those, because I do not know when it will be available. It might be available next week. It might be available at the end of the year or next year. I don't know. I will tell you that there is a laundry list of updates for pretty much all of our products at this point. So they're working on them, and you'll see updates hitting the fan over the next period of time. I think over the definitely all year. But yeah, everything is slated to have an update because there are bugs to squash, right? So we want to but that is a new function. What you're talking about here is a new function of this unit, and I wouldn't necessarily spec something out until it's actually in the flesh and working. Yeah, be careful there. Hey, I'm just jumping. What's going on, transmission? Welcome back. Err on the side of using shielded cables for anything over 25 feet, unless you're located in the middle of nowhere. That's a good idea. I had my last minute request for a Q&A camera once. HX camera on my tablet to the rescue. It wasn't great, but it was absolutely good enough. There you go. There you go. But you never turn down. We always want HX. Never turn down. We always want HX 70 megs. Alrighty. Is that HX3, I'm assuming, because you can change the bandwidth on that? Currently using two P200s into vMix into a dedicated network 4250 switch on a 1 gig network. What causes dropped frames normally? When troubleshooting for lost frames, where do I start? Well, have you followed my network configuration for how to set up that 4250 for NDI? It's actually pretty straightforward, but I have videos on YouTube that tell how to do that. And isolating the NDI ports so that those packets do not interfere with other things going on in the network. Having a dedicated NIC card on that vMix machine is also helpful. And don't use vMix's dropped frames thing, because we actually don't know how they calculate that stuff, but that's not our judgment of what a drop frame is. Any connection that you make, what we think is going on is they're reading every packet, and that's doing a couple of things, but in short, every video protocol, including SDI and whatever, they technically don't have every single tiny frame that shows up, because in our instance, the frames get divided into packets, and then those packets get sent across in a sequence. And we don't know what they're considering a drop frame or not. Like, is it actually dropping a frame, or is it missing a packet, right? And that's a big difference, because one packet missing from a sequence of one frame out of 100 or out of 60 frames is a fraction of an actual drop frame. But are they counting that as, well, the whole thing's not here, and so that counts as a drop frame? We just don't know. We have a good friendship with vMix, but when I look at my drop frame stuff, like the stats that I'm running out of vMix, it does not coincide with actual frames dropped. I don't know what's going on there, because my cameras are not, at least visually, we're not dropping any frames. So I'm not too sure what they're considering that. But if you're just using the vMix, network scanner thing, I would maybe like look at NDI analysis instead, or Dyno or something like that. Dyno would at least be able to show you graphically if you're really losing frames or not. Even the cheapest wired switch has a separate port for each device. Wi-Fi shares the same port with every device and makes them all take turns. NetHab, you are full of great, useful tidbits today. I really appreciate that. Oh, hey, what's going on, guy from Finland? Now he's over on YouTube. I came to NDI slowly, backwards. First, I put the 4250 PoE++ switch in, and then I buy two P200s and a controller, and now KiloView N60. Well, we'll pretend you didn't say that. Everything seems to be working very well with NDI. Problems start if you don't have a reliable 10 gig switch, I think. Now I'm trying to get 2 more P200s. You know those P200s are on sale. If you can get a budget, now would be the time. I'm working with Frink. Good, he's a good guy. I'm glad there is a way to fix the firmware remote issues. Well, it depends on what the issue is, I guess. If you've really bricked the camera, then there may not be an issue, but it may not be a way to do it. But Frink is a good guy, so he'll sort you out for sure. He will at least tell you how far we can go, and then we'll work towards a solution for you. I use those with vMix and really love the usability of NDI. Coming at BMCC hardware world. Oh, nice. Yeah, NDI is super flexible, and I would love to say that it's for every installation, but there are places where it's not. But I do like how flexible NDI is, and then once you get it to ones and zeros, you can do a whole lot with that. So they're really cool, and there's lots of cool stuff coming out of the market, just even at trade shows and stuff that we've seen people integrating with Control and with NDI and doing, Densitron's doing a whole bunch of cool stuff with their panels, and yeah, I'm really excited about the future of NDI because I think it'll be a huge step forward in the next 12 months. It's just going to be a really fun evolution of the protocol. It's almost like the 3.0 firmware for the Mini with encode and decode in one box. But that was cool, but boy, was it a oof. Sometimes glad they took it off. Yeah. The issue with the simultaneous encode decode on the original products was that it was dropping frames on decode even when you weren't using it. And so we had all sorts of broadcast institutions that were like, please get rid of that. Yeah, that was a doozy. Hey, I love the show, John. Suggestion, have more guest speakers. Happy to help. I will pretend like I'm not insulted with that comment. I'm glad you like the show. Thanks. I do want to have more guests on because it's a whole lot more interesting to have somebody on. I really wanted to do that last week when everyone was here, but there was so much going on and twice as many people in the office than normal. So I just couldn't make it happen. There was a photo from your ISC 23 booth with dual encode mode officially written next to these encoders, but not much more detail than this, and that's why I asked. Yeah, I saw that photo, actually. It was sent to me by one of the sales guys and said, hey, heads up. So I knew those questions were going to come, but I do not know of a timeline which that feature is going to be available. So maybe there's something out there that I don't know, but let's just hope that's the case and that they're really close to having it done. I just don't know. I don't know where it is, where that project is. Also, Windows 11, if using... Oh, yeah. Yeah, so if you're going to use a 10 gig network card, you have to use Windows 11 because that little problem that Windows has in Windows 10, that is an issue. Same here. We still need to have me on. I appreciate the volunteer, guys. It really is appreciated. Okay, we got a question over on Facebook, so let's see what's going on. Hey, John, we're looking at going to P4K cameras to work better in a low light condition. I currently stream 1080p and use the P200's 30 times optical zoom often. Will I be able to get a high quality zoom at the same distance with the P4K camera if it only has a 12 times optical zoom and an 18 digital? I know that it offers 24 times digital zoom at full HD. My furthest regular close-up shots are about 60 to 70 feet from the stage to the theater. We want to get 9 new cameras possibly, but we want to know what to... cameras possibly. What to know? Want to know what to? Probably what to purchase. Yeah, that optical lens is different than the P200. P200 has the standard lens that is inside the A200, A300, and P200. Now the 240 technically has a 40 times. They're running an algorithm there with the size of the lens. It's a different. I'm sorry, with size of the chip. It's a different chip, and it's a really high quality chip. And then they're using the high level of resolution they're getting off of that to compensate for the actual optical lens isn't 40, but they're using that to actually get a 40 times zoom out of it. So it's not a digital zoom per se, but it is an actual 40 times after you factor in the resolution of the actual chip, and then that it's brought down to 1080. So that's the algorithm there. So the 240s might give you that image. If I were you, I would request a demo between a 240 and a P4K and see which one you like better, because I think you'll be really happy with the 240's ability. Not to say the P4K image is unbelievable, but if you really need that optical lens, yeah, that's going to be a challenge. Now, if you run the P4K in 1080, which is what your show is currently at, then yeah, now you have the horsepower of a 4K sensor, a full 4K sensor at your disposal with the optical and then basically the digital. So what they're doing is they're using the extra space on that sensor to give you high resolution while doing digital zooming. So you may just want to see both. This guy is a 240 that I'm using, the current shot, and I love it. I think it's a great shot, but I don't have a P4K sitting here for me to like do a side by side. So maybe I should do that, is put a 4K up there, put a 240 up there, put them at the same focal length, and then you guys can decide on what the image looks like after it gets processed through vMix and goes to Restream and all that sort of good stuff. But I think that's probably as transparent as I can be about all that. Hopefully that's somewhat helpful. 10 gig issues on Windows 10. Yeah, so there's a bug in the Windows 10, one of the Windows 10 security updates that basically limits you to 1.25 gigs on a 10 gig connection. It's bizarre, but we started seeing that and we were freaking out because we thought it was an NDI problem. And then Microsoft published an article that said, yep, we've notified it. It's fixed in NDI, or it's fixed in Windows 11, but we're still trying to work on it in Windows 10. I haven't heard any difference since then. Definitely bring guests from the community. That's normally who I bring on if I bring somebody on, somebody that's in the community. Can you point us to a link for the 4250 and the P200 setup? I just Googled that, can't seem to locate it. You're going to want to go to the Bird Dog YouTube page, and so that is Bird Dog. Is it Bird Dog TV? Is that what they go by? Nope. I should have this memorized at this point. All right, I'll get you the link. Tell you what the short name is. Bird Dog Australia is their handle. And on the playlist option, so you go to YouTube, type in Bird Dog Australia, all one word. And then you go to YouTube. And then go to Bird Dog How To's. And inside there, the first 5 videos on that list are about the 4250. So maybe I should just share. Can I share? Save playlist to library. I want to get a link. Can I? Nope. Let me see if I can get you a link. And then I can post it in the chat or something. Oh, here. View full playlist. Share. Copy. And then what platform are you on here? Facebook. Okay, so I'm just going to post this to all of them, and hopefully you're able to click on one of these. I'm about to shoot myself in the foot. I'm running 10 gig card at 1 gig for my NDI and planning to move to 10 gigs. Well, you can always move to Windows 11. You need to update the latest Windows 11 to the buffers in Windows to work correctly. We will try it. I have a P240 and we love it. Boom. Yeah, 240s are great. I have been super impressed with the 240 personally. I think it's genuinely better than the 200, which is saying something because I love the 200. That's my wheelhouse. You use 10 gig SFP plus SM. We used a 10 gig SFP plus SM Sonnet network card with Windows 10 for live streaming with Wirecast. Also, NDI and Dante sources included on some projects. We did not have any problems. So that is how I'm running it, although I'm not running a 10 gig port. I'm running the 1 gigs on that Netgear 4250, the 4250 that I have here in the studio. And I'm running the same Sonnet box dual fiber, and it gives me 2 gigs. Now, whether I'm getting 2 straight gigs, I don't know, but yeah, we'll find out. It's a travesty that the support team doesn't have one of every single camera you make for science. I didn't say that. I said I don't have one in the studio. I think that there is one here. Likely a customer's at that point, but it is a shame. It's a shame that I don't have a video wall yet, which was announced at ISE. Okay, so I actually made it to the bottom of the chat, unbelievably. And when I do that, I typically... okay, I'm still talking here. I typically like to run a little snacks on stream, right? So let's do that, because today we have another flavor of popcorn that I've been dying to try. So let's go.
John's just making up stuff to start drama.
Look, I don't know.
Look at him.
Wish me luck, folks. It's my first Vegemite experience.
Final, this is like cheese flavor or something. It doesn't really look too appetizing.
Good golly, this is something else, man.
Here's the thing about Pop Rocks, and I don't know if I'm the only one like this. Pop Rocks have always been a social experience for me.
I did not think that is what you were going to say. That's hilarious.
That is awful. Oh, God, that's so bad. Jeez. Holy smokes, man.
Yep. Time for snacks on stream. Let's do this and continue to answer your questions. Want to be sure that we continue on as normal. We are going to do green chili caramel popcorn brought to you by the Southwest Popcorn and Candy Company, courtesy of Bird Dog Monty, the one, the only, who was visiting last week and dropped both of these off. Last week we did the red chili, and this week we will try the green chili, which I'm super excited about because I do like green chilies. So giddy up. I'm pretty excited there, and that should be pretty awesome. Let's just jump back in the chat here. I see you guys still going. So is vMix running really well on Windows 11? I have no issues here is what the report is, and I'm running 2.6. I run 2.6 as well. I'll look into it. I actually haven't upgraded to 2.6 yet, which I probably should do. John's just throwing out that video wall push. Chop it up as one of my digital shorts. In that video, you should have done Marmite on toast with butter. It's the bomb. So I was in Australia, which is why I had the Vegemite. And I have yet to get Marmite, but I've heard it's equally as delectable as Vegemite, according to my UK friends. So throw it in there all smooth like. I've been running a Windows 11 laptop for a while, and it seems fine. No vMix on this machine though. Works fine. Windows 11 and vMix 26. Well, that seems to be tracking according to they wanted to get that functional because Windows 11 is now a real thing, I guess. So just do a Clonezilla of your boot drive. There you go. It is not. It is a lie. It is not. It is a lie. What is? What's a lie? Oh, Vegemite? It's true. I wasn't a fan, as you saw in that video. I just wasn't a fan of it. So this bag is green, which is matches my green light here in the office. But anyways, green chili caramel popcorn. I'm really excited about this. This is the one that I haven't tried, so I'm all about it. And we have an open bag in the office, but I wanted to be sure that you guys... I haven't tried it, and I didn't eat the one out in the office because I knew I was going to share this experience with you. So that is what I'm up to. Let's open the bag. Whoa. Man, that caramel and chili flavor is so strange, unique. I don't know what to say here about that. All right, here we go. Ready? Vegemite is weak. Marmite is extra flavor. Flavor is not the word that I would use for that. Okay. So far, a lot of caramel in these. Not a whole lot of burning of the green chili, but we'll see. We'll see. The cake is a lie. I tried it on toast. It's true. I had it on bread and it was bad. I did not enjoy it. Okay. So last week when we tried the red chili ones, we it like burned my face a little bit and it lingers. But this one doesn't burn at all when you eat it, but it starts to burn your throat a little bit. So it's like it like lives in the back of your throat a bit. There's some green chili flavor, not super like dominant, but it's there. For those of you over who are looking for the playlist link, our friend over on Facebook has posted the actual YouTube link there, so they did find it. It's good news. You need some Mr. Naga pickle? Is this something that's appropriate to Google on a show that's not deemed inappropriate for children? Not deemed, inappropriate for children. Okay, well, I actually kind of like this, where it satisfies the sweet tooth that I have, to the chagrin of my dentist. But it has that chili burn, which I also enjoy, but in a different, usually in a savory, Mexican dish, and not on caramel popcorn. But whatever. You need Taquis Fuego? Uh-oh. It's on Amazon. I got you, John. Wait, what? You got me the link? You didn't order anything, did you? Let me look at it first. Balu is the guy that keeps Snacks on Stream alive, especially when Brayton's not available, and he's been sick for a couple of days. So, everybody keep Brayton in your positive thoughts, because he is having a rough deal with the flu, evidently. Mr. Naga hot pepper pickles. Is it looks like a salsa. It doesn't actually look like pickles. Yeah, that burn is definitely happening now. That's for sure, is me trout. Whew. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If you know that reference, other than Pandorica, you get the gold star today. Then there is this Mother's Recipe Punjabi mango pickle. That sounds like something I'd, if I was feeling adventurous, would try. And also, Best Made sour pickles and dill pickles. All these sound great. Best Made extreme hot pickle bites. This is a 5-gallon bucket of dill pickles. Only $100. These are Van Holten's pickles. Character pickles in a pouch sampler. And the characters are Garlic Joe, Hot Mama, Sour Sis, and Big Papa. $28.76. All right. Is this the new challenge? Is that what I think I'm making up this new challenge in my head already. We're going to go from hot and spicy to various pickles. On Papadoms? I don't know what that is. No, but the link is safe. Oh, thank you. I sent Eamon a pot, but FedEx cracked the pots and evacuated the bird dog headquarters. Uh-oh. FedEx cracked the pots. Alrighty. Well, good luck with that. Dang it. Air farce. Angus? Gold star. Are you a Newfoundlander? Papadoms are so good. All right, I'm going to check them out. Let's see. See what we can come up with. There are a lot of variations of the spelling. All right, I'll have to do some deeper research on that while I'm not staring at the show. Taco Texas, okra pickles hot. That's my recommendation. Oh boy. Woohoo! Yes, Angus, you get the gold star. That was a reference to a comedy show in Canada, probably, 10 years ago? 15 years ago? Texas. Did you say? Taco Texas. Oh my goodness. I get it. Taco Texas pickle okra hot. Okay. Oh boy. Okra pickles? Why do I know nothing about this? They're keto, vegetarian, and vegan. Let's go. They come in mild as well, apparently. I don't know if I've ever had okra. Maybe. Apparently it did make an impression if I did. This is good popcorn. The burn is not like unbearable where you just can't eat anymore. And the caramel covers it up, but the more you eat, then the more the burn stays in your throat. So we started watching Air Force in the 90s. That's 10 years ago, right? Oh, crap, yeah. That's when I was watching it, too. When I lived in Canada. Even then. It's been a long time since I was there. Yeah. When did it go off the air, though? Like, CBC has made some odd choices that they decided to stop broadcasting hockey. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation decided to stop broadcasting hockey. They ended their contract, and now Rogers does everything. Who is running that corporation over there, other than the government? Anyway. It's NDI Hot Ones. Yes, we have talked about doing that. Bringing in my air fryer and making up chicken wings, and then doing hot sauces. That might be like level 2. If the company really lets me do this show as a part of my job description and not just something extra I do, yeah, we'll turn it up. Bring back Cyber Chase. I'm honestly not sure. When the cast changed, we lost interest. Seriously. The original 4? Oh, man. What's some good stuff? The Confused Philosopher was one of my favorite. Who else? Oh, that Sitting in Timmy's with the whole cast. The Mike from Canmore. It's classic stuff. It's great. And then Rick Mercer came along, and he restored some faith in Canadian comedy. And he stayed on the air for 10 or 15 years. For those of you who don't know who Rick Mercer is, he's famously known for something called the Mercer Report. But the bigger thing that he did was something called Talking to Americans, where he would go down and interview Americans and ask them to say ridiculous things about, can you congratulate Canada on building their parliament buildings completely out of ice or stuff like that. Just to see if people would do it. You go down to like Arkansas and whatever, and people that have never been to Canada and don't know much about weather in the north. So he totally have them doing it. It was great. Funny stuff. Yep, I'm Mike from Canmore. That's exactly right. Rick Mercer is a Canadian hero. His rants are legendary. They're so good. They're so well crafted. Yeah. It's a shame he's not doing that show anymore because it was one of the best things about Canadian comedy. They had Just for Laughs, which is a comedy place festival, I guess, in Montreal. But it wasn't really funny. A lot of it was just like crude. So kind of, you take so much of that after a while, but then it's like, meh, this isn't really Canadian comedy. Canadian comedy is mostly making fun of themselves and making fun of Canadian politicians in a non-malicious way, like just being goofy about it. To where you'd be okay watching it with your conservative grandparents. Anyway, good times. All right, I am still at the end of the chat, so that's all good. It seems like you guys don't have a whole lot of NDI chat, so that's fine. What time we got? Oh, it's 12:15, so even earlier than normal. I know I have a hard stop at 1 o'clock, so I'll probably end in the next few minutes to get ready for that. But I want to be sure that you guys know we are in the office 5 days a week, and ticketing agents there's usually always somebody in the desk during that time. So we want to be sure that you guys know that if you need help, submit a ticket to help@birddog.tv. That will create you a ticket. If you do it correctly, you'll get an auto response saying, here's your ticket number. And then if you didn't include this information, please send us an update with this information in it. Just hit reply and update. And that would be a great way to kick off a conversation about how do I do something, or I need help with something, or whatever. Hit us up there. I also want to give a little shout out that there have been a higher number of complainers on Facebook recently. And for those of you who jump in and help, man, that means a whole world to us. Seriously. Especially those of you who jump in and defend us, first of all, in terms of, that we are really trying. But also, just the fact that you jump in and offer your assistance. And sometimes you guys point them towards the show. Sometimes you point them towards the help desk. Sometimes you help them get in touch with Dan and Eamon. It's all good. Really appreciate that. It's one of the cool things about the bird dog industry is our customers are generally the best. And so, thanks so much for helping us out and for helping people get their answers and figure it out. But the number one way to do it is to hit us up at help@birddog.tv. Now, we also have still a Twitter account that doesn't get used very much, but it's there, help_birddogtv. And if you tweet at us, it will generate a ticket. You won't get an auto response, but our guys can tweet back at you directly through our account. So hit us up on Twitter if you're on the job and you need to you don't want to get into your email, or if you're whatever, it's too much and you just want to send off whatever the limit is. Is it still the 140 characters? We can talk to you through there, back and forth, or the guys can send you a direct message if it's going to need like 8,000 characters. Now, the difference with the direct message is it goes directly to you, and if you respond, it then opens up another ticket. So just a heads up, if you need quick help, tweeting us will also open a ticket for you in the help desk, and that's a good way to do it. So there you go. There's a secondary option. Of course, you can always join me here at birddogjohn.tv, and I'd be happy to have you along. Tuesday, Thursdays from 11 to 12. I try and be as consistent as I can. We start up generally a few minutes before 11 with some music and some pre-show, and then we'd get underway right around 11 o'clock, and then I stay on at least for an hour. So bring your questions, bring your, and if I can't, like I said, if I can't answer it, I've always said this, but if I can't answer it, I will turn around to the audience and see if they know anything. So vMix 26, I don't have any experience with that yet. So there are multiple people in here that are using vMix 26 and using it on Windows 10 and Windows 11. So it's a good place to come find that stuff out. But twice a week, 11 to 12, Tuesday, Thursdays, Eastern time here in the U.S. Be happy to give you a hand live. This is a great place to join us. Like I said, we usually go for an hour, which means you have 2 hours of live chat with us every week. And I'll go an hour and a half today probably. So if I do that both days, that's 3 hours. And it's just a way to be available where people can come to the community, ask their questions, get answers not just directly from me, but from the folks in the group as well. So be sure that you hit us up. Now, if you've got questions about products that you haven't purchased yet, and you want to know kind of like what makes logical sense, there is a large sales team that hang out at hello@birddog.tv, and these guys are best in the biz, I think. They're ready to help you. They're ready to help you actuate your dreams in terms of, here's what I want to do. How could BirdDog help me do that? And then what are the steps to actually implement that? These guys can help you with that for sure, and point you in the direction of a reputable reseller or distributor or whatever you'd like to do. So if you need pre-sales help, reach out to hello@birddog.tv. If you need post-sales help, reach out to help@birddog.tv. I can definitely give you a hand. I hope I said that right. Hello for pre-sales, help post-sales. Cool. All right. Is there any NDI firmware updates coming soon? Always. I mean, we're always working on squashing bugs and making things better. Officially, I can't say this one will be this week. I don't have that sort of vision on how quickly guys will invent and correct, and it's kind of a fluid world, so it's challenging, but we do what we can. And are there any NDI news for protocol news? Not that I know of. There's been no changes to the NDI news other than I do know that the actual NDI company is kind of figuring out where they're, like how they're going to do the NDI game long term. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. I'm sure we'll hear something in April about what the next stage of NDI.TV, which is a separate entity than NewTek, and are both under the umbrella of VizRT. I don't know much about it, but I do know that there is some positioning and whatever so that they can be better poised to be a resource for the AV industry and for broadcast still, and really be the go-to standard when it comes to video over IP. That one guy is awful. Who was awful? The one guy was awful. There were on Air Farce? Which one? I thought everybody had their moments to shine. The four. There's one lady, she was funny. And then John, who was the old guy, and he passed away, but he was Mike from Canmore. The confused philosopher was the tall, skinny guy. He also did Preston Manning impressions, and that was always comical when Preston was a politician. And then the other guy, the shorter, bald guy, he was the oh yeah guy. He was good too. Always good for a laugh. So no names. I see. Sorry, I guess I went the wrong way. The unpleasant Facebook complainer. Yeah. I think he got his stuff resolved. I read through that sequence and that was fine. I don't know. We've had a couple of people come to the help desk recently. They've been quite upset at the style of support that we have. And it's always interesting to me to listen to what people's expectations are, given the price of the product in the industry and the price of the support. And so I always look at it as, if I send off an email to somebody and I'm not paying them for the service, like not a software of SSA or not a SAS or some sort of subscription, like I'm subscribed to StreamYard. So if I email them and I say, hey, I'm a paying subscriber, annual subscriber, I do expect to hear back from them within the day or whatever. That's fine. But if I buy a product from somebody, like if this Rode microphone and the transaction's done and I've had it for 6 months and I contact their support department, I'm not paying them for an SLA or anything. You know, they'll get to me when they get to me, I guess, because I'm not a preferred customer and I'm not giving them extra money for attention or anything like that. And part of my original design of the support department was I didn't really want to provide people with preferential treatment because I wanted everyone to feel like they're within the bird dog community, and that they're just because somebody has deep pockets doesn't mean that the other person's ticket's not going to get addressed, right? So we flirted around the idea of paid SLA, but I really feel like it works against the bird dog community flow because I don't like the idea of pay me and you'll get faster response. Because what about the people that can't? You know, the people that really broke the bank to buy 3 cameras, a keyboard, and a 4250, and their tickets in line behind all these other SLAs. Now, we've seen examples in this industry of companies that operate that way. And the reviews aren't great. Doesn't mean that it couldn't be great. Doesn't mean that we couldn't, structure ourselves so that people still got quick responses even if they didn't have an approved SLA. But I kind of want to level the playing field. And so if you're unfortunately with industry, as I'm understanding it from the assistance of my sales team, is that big integrators expect to be treated, special, and that's fine. They have come to this expectation over years of being in the industry. And again, that's fine. That's the way they have been treated. But I am concerned about how other customers will fall by the wayside. Like, I know companies that have paid SLAs, 3 or 4 tiers of SLAs. And if you submit a ticket without an SLA, they're not going to get back to you. They're not going to get back to you because there are too many paid tickets in line. And so introducing a paid SLA, which is, again, something that could generate revenue, but at what cost? Well, at the cost of the person who really needs help but can't afford a paid SLA. And it's like, well, what do you tell that customer? Tough? Because then what happens, right? People still go on Facebook and complain. So it's like, if you do, if you don't, it's still not a great idea. So there are other ways to address it. There are other ways to handle it. And I think those conversations are progressing in positive ways here within BirdDog. Ways to do this that don't sacrifice the customer's ability to reach a human being that actually knows what they're talking about. And my agents, all the people that work out of this office, have picked up on things quickly, but have also applied themselves and genuinely want things to work for our customers. And so it's this careful dance that we have to play, but we're trying to get to everybody. Now, with all that said, it doesn't matter how quickly you respond, somebody's going to be upset about it. We get people who say things like, if I submit a ticket, I should hear something in 15 minutes, which you do technically because you get the auto response. But I should hear something in 15 minutes or it's too slow. I don't have time to waste in the field. Fair enough. Perhaps that's the way you operate, is that you charge every 15 minutes. You charge your customers every 15 minutes you spend with them. That's not really how we operate. And it is a pretty relaxed, in terms of product development, the way that the company likes to operate, way we interact with customers is we're not super uptight about everything. And it's a bit more of a relaxed approach. And that butts heads with people who don't operate that way. So it's one of those, well, until we change the way that we work, that may not be a great way to do this. So we've been going around and around and around in circles about how to do this correctly. And as far as I can see, so I do look at models of other companies to kind of understand who's doing it better. But as far as I can see, there are always complainers. It's always somebody that it's too slow, or that, an email is not preferred, or that, they don't like the methods that we have. And really, if my favorite line is, well, if you want to do a business in this industry, you better give me a phone number. It's like, wow, that's that's an interesting way to become a partner in a business. Is to strong arm everybody. It must be a miserable life. Honestly, you must hate yourself at night. Now, in regards to what Angus is talking about, this gentleman had just done an update, and it looks to me like it was a networking issue where his computer was not on the same network as his cameras, and so I think that that's what the end result was. But it wasn't before he had posted several times complaining about how Bird Dog support was not helping. So it was unfortunate. It's a shame that he hasn't taken it down yet. He's left it up there for, even though his issue is resolved and actually it was not a Bird Dog problem. But he did the updates, and that, of course, changes things inside the cameras, and he was unhappy with that. So perhaps we should do better in telling people what is going to change precisely when they do the update. That's something that we should do a lot better at, especially if it's going to change any sort of network connections or anything like that. But I believe that his issue was resolved. That one that's on there that has like 56 responses. So it's okay. We worked through that. You know, people just want their stuff to work, man. And at the end of the day, you just have to take a breath and realize they just want it to work just like we want it to work. That's not unreasonable. How they express that frustration, that could be chosen a couple of different ways. But in this instance, it sounds like he's up and running. So for the money I have in the product for both Bird Dog and vMix, I'm delighted with the quality of support. Boom. Thanks, Angus. That's very kind. I'll be sure the team sees that. It's always nice. It's not the compliment desk, but it's always nice to get a compliment, you know. It means that today you made an effort for today to be a little brighter than it potentially was going to be. So thanks, man. Always appreciate it. Like to have you here. After decades of being in the industry, shouldn't they be able to figure it out on their own? Well, that is one of those questions that goes unanswered. You can't say that out loud because you'll lose a customer. But the reality is yeah, you would think that after I get the quote all the time. I've been in the industry for 30 years, which really is only like 1990, by the way, but which is not that long ago in my brain. So the catch with it is that NDI has really only been around for 5, and so, or 6 at this point. So I usually say, "Oh, how long have you been operating in the NDI world?" And they say, "Well, no, the broadcast." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we're not talking about camera settings here. We're talking about networking protocols." And if that's the case, I've been in the networking game a whole lot longer than the 6 years I've been looking at NDI stuff. So I guess I'm only up to 5 years right now, but the 6 years that NDI has been around. So, you know, you can play it, but you don't want to go down that road with folks. You say, "Okay, well, I'm sorry that you're feeling frustrated that things are different now, but we can definitely help you figure it out so that your future installs or this current install can be corrected and you can get underway, make some money," right? So yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Yeah, you would think so. I'm happy to say the quiet parts out loud for you. I got you. NetHab. Always worth it having you around, bud. It's okay. It's one day at a time. We're happy to assist, and we do know that when people come to the support desk, usually they're pretty frustrated because they can't figure it out, right? Like they've tried all the things that they think they know, and why is this behaving differently than all the other static networks I run? It's like, well, okay, let's go. Let's figure it out for you. Now, the one thing I can't tell people is, it should be working. That's the one thing I can't tell people. That excuse permeates all around the industry. When somebody reports an issue and you ask how to fix it, and the answer is, well, it should be working. That's like, okay, but it's not working. So what do we do? And nobody has any idea how to start. So my agents are trained to set it up and test it. In particular, me and the Christians that are in this office, Christian, Frink, and Balu, our job is to test it up and set it and try it out and see if it fails. See if that's, and I've got lots of resources here, I think. I mean, not lots, but I've got a lot of resources that I can use to test things out and replicate issues. And so if people will give us the time to test it, we like to do that just to let's see if it's a localized problem or if it's a problem with the firmware or whatever. So that's always fun and keeps us busy. That's for sure. Job security, everybody. But then isn't it nice? Like if you submit a ticket, right? If you submit a ticket and the agent comes back and says, all right, we have taken a couple of hours here to set this up and test it for you on our own products because we want to see if this is repeatable. Isn't that phrase super nice? It's like somebody stopped what they were doing under all of their work and said, okay, let's sort this out with this person first and see what we can do about that. Man, I always find that, hey, I looked into this for you. You know, this is the way that I set it up. It's similar to how you're doing it. I'm not seeing this issue, or I am. You know, I'm going to report this to engineering. People just go a little bit further. I think that's what separates us from the people who are reading the support manuals, right? One of the misconceptions in running support is that it's just, we can just give you the answers and you just regurgitate them online. That's not the nature of this job. The nature of this job is everything moves and changes and adapts and all sorts of stuff. And you also have to move and change and adapt and help customers figure it out. So I'm happy to say that my agents are pretty good at that. They don't slough off too much. So if there's a genuine issue or you're seeing stuff, yeah, we'll set it up. We'll isolate the network. We'll configure it how you have it. You know, we try and do that because, yeah, then we can find out what's really going on. And like I said, unless you have a paid SLA elsewhere, you're probably not going to get that level of support. So I'm hoping that, like Angus said, for the price that you've paid for the products, you're delighted with the quality of support. That I appreciate greatly. It's good stuff. Okay, I have a 1 o'clock meeting, and so I'm going to have to say goodbye. But I've really enjoyed being with you guys. And this, let me give my final review here of the green chili caramel popcorn. I have eaten most of this bag. I don't know if that means something, but it definitely means something to me, is that I enjoyed that. And this, I would recommend it. It is green chili caramel popcorn from the Southwest Popcorn and Candy Company. And if you're looking for a mild burn while you enjoy caramel popcorn, this might be an option for you. So thank you, Monty, for dropping this off. Shout out to him for making that available. On Thursday, I might get brave enough to try more spicy ramen. I was going to force somebody to do that last week with me, but meetings and stuff ran through this show, so I didn't want to pull them out of that. So I am probably going to do spicy ramen on Thursday. So come on back and check that out. That'll be fun for everyone involved, myself included. But yes, please hang out with us on Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern Time here in the U.S. Happy to be with you again, supply some time with you, and hopefully get you your answers to your NDI questions. If you don't prefer to submit a ticket to help@birddog.tv, then you can come here twice a week from 11 to 12 Eastern Time on Tuesday, Thursdays. But if you need to open a ticket and you need some help in the meantime, reach out to help@birddog.tv. My guys are really good at what they do. They really want to help you. They want to make it right. And so we will get after it. And that's a great way to reach the team. So hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully things are going all right. There is lots of turmoil in the nation, unfortunately, but hopefully you are doing okay and you're taking care of yourselves. Be sure that you reach out and take care of others, because that's super important. And in the meantime, we will see you in a couple of days on Thursday at 11 o'clock. All right. Thanks for everything, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.
You didn't say the magic word.